Tonight on KGW News.
We're going to find you. We're coming after you, and we're going to find you.
Strong words aimed at the man accused of robbing a local mail carrier at gunpoint. Plus,
so our water bill this past month went up by $200.
Sticker shock in one Oregon town. Why water bills are skyrocketing and what will happen to residents who can't afford the hike. And grab those glasses even if they're 6 years old.
It's going to be what's called a ring of fire.
We'll tell you where you want to be to catch the big show. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko, and we begin tonight with a man who was in charge of the Portland Marathon for over 3 decades, admitting to tax evasion. That is after prosecutors say Les Smith spent years siphoning off funds from the nonprofit to spend on himself. Catherine Cook with our top story.
It's been 6 years since Les Smith directed the Portland Marathon, a job the former race president held for some 35 years. Then came the mountain of embezzlement and tax evasion charges. Last year, a federal grand jury indicted Smith for defrauding the nonprofit out of more than $1 million. Investigators learned he spent some of the money on an SUV, shopping sprees, and home remodeling projects. As part of a previous settlement, the Oregon DOJ ordered Smith to pay $865,000 to the Portland Marathon. Then, on Tuesday, Smith pleaded guilty in federal court for evading taxes connected to the funds he stole. Smith, who's now 83, was sentenced to 3 years probation. That includes 8 months of home confinement. The judge also ordered him to pay more than $400,000 in restitution to the IRS. The news comes less than a month before the 51st Portland Marathon.
The residents and community that come out to support the runners is unmatched, in my opinion. So very excited for October 1st.
Chris Braun is brand director of Brooksy. The Utah-based company took over production of the Portland Marathon in 2019. They paused in 2020 because of COVID and have been slowly rebuilding the race ever since. This year, they're expecting around 8,000 runners, their largest turnout since 2016.
We realized that with the dark cloud that the former owners have cast over the race, that this isn't going to be an overnight fix in terms of everybody feeling warm and fuzzy about the marathon going forward. But we hope that we've accomplished a lot in the 4 years that we've been putting the race on.
And it would be nice if Portland can build one that is a Boston of the West Coast. That's our dream.
Rick Lovett is coach of the Red Lizard Running Club. A lot of his members are volunteering as pacers for the marathon, including Kristen Shaw.
And it's really exciting. It's so much fun to have everyone there on the start line and get revved up.
This year, runners in both the full and half Portland Marathon will now share the first mile of the race. In years past, they've split off in the beginning. The route will also include an extended tour of Reed College and once again, 4 bridge crossings for those running the full.
It's fun having local marathons. You just get up and go across town and you're at the start line.
In Portland, it just makes sense.
We're kind of a major mecca for that. I mean, you trip over elite runners out here.
Les Smith, the former marathon director, lives in Tomball, Texas now, but he was back in Portland to appear in court today. The Oregonian reports Smith apologized, telling the judge, quote, "I'm sorry for what has happened, and I can't tell you enough. It certainly doesn't reflect my life. I'm sorry." David.
And now he is paying the price. Catherine Cook reporting tonight. Thank you, Catherine. Let's get to significant new information tonight about a man who was shot and killed by police in Hillsborough. Investigators now say the suspect never fired his gun, which contradicts the details they initially released. Now, Hillsborough police went to an address on Duke Drive last Friday to serve a warrant to a 39-year-old named Ryan Herrings. Beaverton police, who are now investigating the shooting, said on Friday that Herrings came out of the house armed with a gun and fired at officers. But today they said further investigation showed Herrings did not fire his gun. They do say he pointed it at officers. 2 Hillsborough police officers and 2 Washington County deputies were involved. They are now on paid administrative leave. In Vancouver, the officer charged with assault for allegedly threatening to tase a man's genitals appeared in court today. Officer Andrea Mendoza pleaded not guilty. In May, Mendoza and another Vancouver officer trying to arrest a shoplifting suspect outside a Walmart. Body cam video showed the man fighting with the officers, then Mendoza pulling down his pants and threatening to tase him. Mendoza remains on administrative leave and faces fourth-degree assault charges. Developing tonight, police are looking for this man who's accused of robbing a mail carrier at gunpoint. This was last Tuesday on the South Waterfront. Authorities say the carrier was just outside the Matisse Apartments when she was approached by an armed man who asked her for her keys and the mail. They described the suspect as clean-cut, 5'8" to 5'10", with a medium build. He was seen leaving the area in a dark-colored Ford Explorer.
While she wasn't physically injured, the mental toll and the emotional toll it takes is very significant. And we try not to downplay that. They are victims. It's a horrible crime, and it can be very emotionally challenging for our letter carriers.
Well, this is the third time in the past year a Portland mail carrier has been robbed. As for the keys that were stolen, the Postal Service says they have countermeasures that makes them essentially useless. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, in Wasco County, it appears firefighters have quickly knocked down a brush fire that broke out this afternoon. Those in the area about 8 miles southwest of Dufur were told to get out, but as of tonight, all evacuation levels have been reduced to level 2, get set. Fire crews reported over the radio that the fire's forward progress was halted after 5 this evening, and they were working to mop up hot spots. We're still working to confirm how much damage that fire did. In Gresham, police are looking for 2 people who may have witnessed a deadly shooting. Shots were fired on August 26th outside an apartment complex on Southeast 188th Avenue. That is where police say they found the body of 61-year-old James Wilson. Investigators believe the man and woman on your screen may have been witnesses. If you have any information, call the Gresham Police tip line. And another teacher strike is potentially looming, this time in Portland public schools. Teachers started the school year without a contract. They're asking for higher pay, higher cost of living increases, and a cap on class sizes. The district says it's offered, quote, fair and sustainable proposals. The next bargaining session is scheduled for Friday. If negotiations fail, the earliest teachers could strike would be the end of October. Well, Oregon is now officially suing the parent company of Fox News. The state has money for its public employee retirement fund invested in the Fox Corporation, and officials say false claims about the 2020 election pushed by Fox harmed investors. The Story team has been following this case, and Pat Doris has the update.
The lawsuit alleges that Fox's board knew that Fox News' promotion of election lies created, quote, significant exposure to defamation charges, and that Fox made no good faith efforts to mitigate that risk. Of course, Fox settled a lawsuit from the Dominion voting machine company to the tune of $787 million. And there are other lawsuits against the company that have not yet been decided, meaning they could be on the hook for much more, which could affect investors like the state of Oregon. In a statement today, Treasurer Tobias Reed wrote, "Our responsibility to safeguard the retirement investments of Oregon's public servants is of the utmost importance. We aim to hold Fox's board of directors, including Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch, accountable for their decisions." And for those of you who are thinking this lawsuit may be politically motivated, well, we asked the Treasurer Tobias Reed, that very question earlier this summer. And I can just hear critics from the right, for example, saying, oh, you just want to do this because you're part of a progressive state and you want to take a shot at a conservative media.
We're interested in making sure that our investments are being well managed, that the boards of companies are meeting their obligations, that they're looking out for their shareholders. We do this in a variety of places, and that's consistent with our obligation to the 400,000 beneficiaries on whose behalf we're investing.
It's worth noting the state of Oregon is not alone in this lawsuit. New York City's pension funds are co-plaintiffs.
Be interesting to see what happens. A reminder, for in-depth looks at the big issues affecting our community, check out The Story. It's every weekday at 6:30, only here on KGW. In national politics this evening, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced he is ordering an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, alleging an abuse of power, in part because of his family's business dealings. House Republicans allege the president has profited off his son's Hunter's foreign business deals and lied about it. The White House, meanwhile, said they had not provided any direct evidence of those claims.
These are allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption, and they warrant further investigation by the House of Representatives.
There is no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden because President Biden didn't do anything wrong.
Well, some analysts say McCarthy's move is meant to cool criticism from his ultra-conservative critics. Democrats tonight rallying around the president, accusing Republicans of seeking revenge for the 2 impeachments of former President Trump. Well, look for new COVID shots to be available in Oregon starting next week. That's after the CDC approved today that nearly everyone 6 months and older get the updated vaccine. The shots will be available at pharmacies, some doctors' offices, and public health clinics. They will come with a cost this time. The state health officials say they believe they should be covered by insurance. The vaccines come amidst an uptick in COVID cases, but the number of serious cases that result in hospitalization is nowhere near where we were last time this year. More than 10,000 people are missing in Libya after massive flooding along the Mediterranean. That's according to the Red Cross. Emergency experts in the eastern city of Derna say more than 5,000 people are now dead, and they are expecting that death toll to rise. This was the aftermath today. Storm Daniel struck Derna and surrounding cities, causing 2 dams to collapse and intense waters to essentially carry entire neighborhoods into the sea. President Biden said in a statement today the U.S. is sending emergency funds to relief organizations and coordinating with Libyan authorities to provide additional support. You're watching KGW News, and when we come back at 11, skyrocketing water bills have some in this Oregon town worried they'll have to move. We find out why the jump in rates was such a surprise. And later, it delighted families in North Portland a century ago, where this historic carousel and its horses will begin rotating once again in a brand new home.
I'm Matt Safino. We had some clouds move in late this afternoon, but it's clearing off already. 66 degrees in Portland right now. The rain is winding down. We'll let you know how much fell in parts of the Northwest, such as it is. And with the clearing sky, we got a warm up for the end of the week.